rather not put earphones in. That's okay.
Yeah, you sound great.
Happy days. Hello from Northern Ireland.
Hey, brother. Just trying to get
But we'll
connected.
just
All right, we'll try this. So we should be live on YouTube. It keeps saying I have issues. Yeah, Eugene, I'm not getting enough bandwidth. I'm not getting enough bandwidth. Thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, I did the same. Hey guys, I think we're live, but I'm trying to make sure. Let me just get over there. Yeah, can anyone who's on YouTube, can you let me know
Ireland.
if things are coming in at all or coming in okay? Can you hear me loud and clear? Hey, brother. Just trying to get
But we'll
connected.
just
I think the video's a little laggy, but it sounds like the audio's okay. Yeah, I think audio's okay, which I'm okay if the video's a little laggy as long as we have audio. I'm trying a little differently today where we're actually using the video from Telegram. Okay, great. Ken Davis says 5 by 5. Perfect. All right. Well, great. Well, yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here today. So we've got a decent amount of people in the chat. It's been a minute since we've done one of these Telegram chats, so I figured might as well do another one. It's always a good conversation. I always love doing things on impromptu. So as always, I have nothing planned, no agenda, no prompts, no nothing. Just here and available for any questions or if anyone wants to share anything or just talk about what's going on. So yeah, yeah, Richard Garcia says the bandwidth is rough. Yeah, the video might not be coming through well, but I think that as long as the audio is okay, I'm good with that. Video doesn't have to be preserved. I'm doing the best I can with the internet that I have. I was actually going to go over to Charlie and Colleen's and do this there, but they are having to some construction, so was not able to do that. But Richard, will you let me know is the audio's good on the YouTube end? Do you have something you wanted to start with today? Anything that's on your mind?
is it all? Is there no boundaries? Can we just talk about anything?
There is never absolutely no boundaries. So whatever you'd like with no questions are off limits.
Well, I actually just posted a question in our group, the JC family.
Yeah. Yeah, do you want to reiterate that just to make it clear?
I've taken this journey as far as I can regarding diet. And I want to know, is it doing me any harm? Can I get away with this till things change and I can access quantities of oranges at a reasonable price?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I don't think you're going to do any harm to yourself. There have been people who have done extended cleanses on pasteurized juice with success. I think that tip juice might have a little bit more properties preserved even when it's pasteurized. But the thing we have to remember with pasteurizing is it's the same as cooking. So when you heat up a juice, you're really cooking all the life force out of it, and that's why pasteurized juice has this shelf
Justin,
life.
Justin,
Yes.
Justin, sorry to interrupt you, mate. I know all this journey about a year and a half ago, and I went the whole way, and I got to Christmas, and then we started. The conversation has swung around in the fireside chats, and it was made clear before that you can't be all in if you're not walking the straight and narrow path. Everybody knows now what all in is, okay? And the food thing got me really down because I couldn't progress, and my mental health spiraled, and I was reaching out to Joanne. Do you know Joanne? She does videos.
Yeah. Yeah, Joanne's wonderful.
I was reaching out to her, but I think she had a baby or something, and I haven't heard from her for a while.
Going on in her personal life, so it's most likely that. Um,
Yeah, well, so I'm really struggling. I'm my father's main carer. He's 85, and he has mild dementia. He's still okay. He's still cognitive, but there's wee mild things. But he has younger siblings who are all churchgoers, and they know what I am. I tell them I'm a Christian, but I tell them not to tell anybody. But they're asking me about congregation and what's this church called? Because Charlie brought me back to God. I was lost. I was alcoholic for 25 years, and I got sober at the end of January 2020, and
so
that's all I've got.
so
That's all I've got. Over to you.
yeah, so just curious, what's your question here, or what
I need constructive ideas, so I'm not telling lies. My dad is ill with in a dementia home, and I'm his main carer, and I need to be telling him things like what my church is called and what my congregation. I'm saying that everything in the Bible's true about that, and it learns you how to live your life. And if you just live, I tell him we try to live like Jesus, just as Jesus did. They tried to just walk it, but it's hard to get over the generation, if you know what I mean.
need to love your father for where he is. You don't need to try and tell him or change his
You see,
mind or
my father.
convince of it. Brother, let me speak. Don't interrupt.
Oh, sorry, mate.
So
Sorry, mate.
so with how to identify, because just to repeat your question from the chat, you asked how do we identify if we're seeking this truth and we're walking this path. It's not necessarily the literalist Christian point of view, because the church teaches us a whole bunch of lies. So what do you call
Yeah.
yourself? When we start to worry about things, when we start to get too involved or too basically when you start to throw the what ifs. So what if I say that? What if I say this? Well, how is it going to approach if I say this? This is taking thought, and this is this downward spiral that our ego can take us in,
Yeah.
which really
Yeah.
gets
I
us
get it.
out of this state of
Mm.
presence and stillness.
Ma-
So
I'm working on that.
yeah, so really you just want to be present with your father. Don't worry about, I mean, if he asks questions, then answer them honestly. If he doesn't, then don't worry about it, and it's the same thing, like when we're talking with children. We should never lie to children, but I'm not going to go to a child with the truth and tell them that there are children that are being trafficked and harvested and killed and murdered and all these other sorts of things, because that would traumatize them. It's the truth, but that would traumatize them. It's not appropriate to do in that given moment. Now, if a kid asks about those kind of things, I'm going to explain it to them in a way that meets them where they are, and in a non-traumatizing way. So you just have to take that same approach with your father wherever he is, and not be so fixated on this idea that I have to explain it the right way or have a category or a label or some way that I have to put it. So that's kind of my take on that. But I'm open to anyone else in the chat who's got experience with how you've described yourself. I mean, to me, it's we are the true Christians. When you look at the teachings of Jesus Christ and you embody those, that is a true Christian. And so Buddhists can be true Christians. Zoroastrians can be true Christians. Hindus can be true Christians because it's all about embodying this Christ-like energy, which we all have within us. This is raising the chrism oil as we've been taught, as Charlie teaches. And so this is a true Christian. But again, I wouldn't get too fixated on trying to explain this because there's no way that you're going to be able to get that across in a short conversation unless your father really wants to go deep within it. So yeah, and that's why in the Bible it says, and this is not being harsh, but it's true. Like, don't cast your pearls before swine. So don't spend too much effort trying to hear it, who's not at the level to where they can actually receive it, because you are just going to spin yourself into a lot of energy exertion, convey what's coming across. So you're going to tire yourself out and they're not going to get anything out of it. So it ends up just being a waste of time entirely. So that's kind of my take on that.
I just want to tell them that live righteously and virtuous. I have sins and the 7 heavenly virtues stored as screenshots on my phone, and I read them every day, and I get like wee Bible verses sent to me, so I get in the zone, and then do a wee bit of meditation. But you just, when you're living differently, it's like being in the Matrix. When you're living differently, and you just get hit with a question out of the blue, you sort of get caught and you don't know what to say. There was, for about 6 months, Justin, I couldn't leave the house. I got really bad social anxiety. I was freaking out, and I had to go back on to what do you call it? We call it fluoxetine, but I think it's basically Prozac. I went that low. I had to go on to this stuff. So as I'm trying to cleanse my body of toxins and fluoride, I'm taking on these pills just to keep me going. And I'm caring for my dad at the same time.
Yeah, well, I think the issue really comes from, um, just to put it bluntly, like it's your desire to want to control and change someone else's perspective. So when you see, and I'm not, I haven't been there, and I'm not still there at times. It pains me to see my family members hurting themselves and killing themselves. It pains me to see people living in the lies and the matrix, and I want to shake people and convince them and tell them what the truth is and say, well, pay attention, wake up. My will over another. We have to honor free will no matter what. So even if someone is choosing to live in ignorance and stay in that space, I have to, I can't interfere with that. And if I do, I'm only going to be accruing karmic repercussions on myself, not them. So we have to remember this as we walk, and this is where you mentioned the 7 virtues. So practice temperance. Temperance is this space to where nothing in the outside world affects me. Nothing in the external world affects my internal. Is an illusion. The only thing that is real and within my ability to control and utilize is the internal. So if anything in the external is affecting me, then I am not observing this virtue of temperance, and I need to come back to that space to where I'm unaffected. So that's where I'd really challenge you, dealing with things like social anxiety and stuff like that. It's really try and get out of this space of trying to control. Really try and get out of this space of trying to steer, even if our intentions are good. But get out of that space of trying to
Get that?
take
I
someone
get that.
away.
But what I'm saying is, my father, there's a golden line to this, Cloud, because my father in the last 2 months has become completely bedbound. Completely lost his legs. So he was always a really big, strong man. He was a plasterer. Do you know what a plasterer is in the building trade?
Hmm.
Like render in a house.
Yeah.
He done that. He went in that when he was only 14. So it was really hard from him, this transition. But because I've got sober, I'm now able to be with him and help him through it. I go twice a day. But the miracle is, when I was on the downward spiral, it's got me out socializing, something to do, and I'm completely focused on the straight and narrow path. And because I went through a time there where I couldn't take part in, the YouTube shows, because I knew I was backsliding, and I was eating. I never ate meat. I think I had like dairy or something. But I think we need more. You just can't, unless you're where you are. You're sort of living in two separate worlds.
Well, and don't get into this habit of comparing to others space that's designed for us by God. So you are exactly where you need to be, experiencing exactly the things that you need to be experiencing. Um, and we can choose. So and if as soon as we start, well, I'm not here, and it's easier there, then you're taking yourself out of that present moment, and you're negating all of the opportunities that God is providing you in order to learn and grow. So everything that's happening to all of us is an opportunity. It's an experience that's designed specifically for us. Um, so there's no such thing as victimhood. There's no such thing as oh woe is me. I can't do this because it's too hard, or I can't get out of this, or whatever else. As soon as we start getting into this mindset, that becomes more of a reality, and we slip further and further into this victim mindset, and we get stuck there. We can. So I just really caution you against getting into that mentality of comparing to others. So you're doing great, brother. I mean, you're walking on the path, and you're acknowledging what needs to be done. And as we always say, God loves a trier. So that the fact that you wake up each and every day, and you stay committed to this path, and you say, I'm gonna do more today than I.
Obviously, and don't spill your seed. Just do a couple of those things, and things changes in your life are unbelievable. Miracles, small wee miracles happen all around you everywhere. It's amazing, and then that gives you encouragement to do more and do more.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And you know what I'm talking about. You've done this because you're there.
I'm far from there, but I'm on the right path, and I'm committed to that path. But it's a process each and every day, and that's what we have to remember too. There's no destination. Each and every day, our ego wakes up alongside us, and each and every day, our ego has grown with us. So the further we get along the path, the stronger our ego actually gets, because it's this perfect teaching mechanism that's always designed for us to challenge us. So it's a daily commitment, and I have to and that's where this death and rebirth is so vital, because we have to continually being dying and being reborn, to stay present, and to acknowledge that it's never a finished product. I'm always renewing. I'm always that phoenix rising. Important to remember that
The,
too.
the thing I'm alcohol. And when I get diagnosed about maybe 10 years ago, and it was still a battle then. But yeah, I've even got what I'm saying. Um, what was I saying there, Justin?
You talked about
That's what
PTSD.
it was. That's what it was. I'm getting better. Guess I mean, your memory improves as well.
Hmm.
See, when you're clean, Charlie's right about everything. Everything he says is right.
That's the
It's
truth.
humble. The trick I'm using against my left brain is I'm just going to surrender to Jesus here. I'm just
Yeah.
going to surrender. I'm not even going to take either side. I'm not taking anybody's side. I'm just, if you need to keep your mouth shut, keep your mouth shut. If you need to speak, you need to speak. And I'm just letting God sort it out.
Yeah.
Surrender.
Well, I mean, it is choosing a side. We do have to choose the righteous side, because there is certainly an unrighteous, a left-hand path. But I get what you mean. It's being in that space of the observer, and not getting too consumed with the hustle bustle. And you said it perfectly. It is that divine surrender, and as soon as we let God in, and surrender to Him in every moment, then we're all in abundance, and because God wants us to get there. So as soon as we get out of our way, and the only thing that gets in our way is our ego, as soon as we get our ego out of the way, then we're always led to that space of just maximum potential, of just that space of absolute bliss and beauty. But it takes a lot of work to get there sometimes, because we've fallen far. So we have a a ways to go to get back up again. But that's the whole point of this.
I found Charlie's friend Bill Donahue about 10 years ago and Santos Bonacci at the same time. And I had loads of time on my hand at that time because I had to leave work because I got arthritis in all my joints. And I was a printer and it was heavy lifting and stuff. So I had to come out. So I was like spending days in front of a log fire in the winter, but watching Bill Donahue and Take No Thought and Santos Bonacci, and I actually met him in Manchester when he came to the UK. He was on a world tour, and I said to him, Santos, come over to Ireland because there's a big movement over here. There's loads and loads of spiritual, beautiful, beautiful people over here. Don't believe anything you see on the news or hear. About a month later, he came over and stayed with us in Ireland, and I went to see him in Belfast, and the police busted it, and we all got chucked out. It was mad.
Nice. That's awesome.
So I've been at this quite a while, and things are moving in my life. I listen to Christian rock, and I used to listen to AC/DC, I listen to Christian rock now, and people just can't. I've lost a third of my body weight with living righteously.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
I would be 70. I would be 70 pound to you guys.
That's the thing when we do acknowledge that when we start to rise, we become lighter, not just less. We become less dense, but we also become more light, and it's part of that too.
Here, Justin, you guys must be sitting around that fire on the fireside chats going, you must know yous are changing lives.
Well,
you must know you're changing the movement.
It's truly an honor to be here in this moment and to get to do this. It's a dream come true, and I am just absolutely humbled that somehow, some way, I was chosen to be here doing this exact thing that I'm doing, because I love everyone here, and I love all of this family that we get to interact with. And the best part is there's no pressure. It's just I just get to show up and be me. I get to show up and share my perspective, and so that we can all learn together. So, but yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. It's truly a beautiful experience.
Justin, I think this movement is going to grow. This family, whatever bunch of freaks we are, I think this is going to go so well. Imagining what's going to happen in the world in the next 10 years.
Absolutely.
Well, my dad's 85, so I hope I have his genes.
Yeah. Well, hey, brother, I wanna make sure we give a chance for others to chime in if there's anyone else, and then we can come back to you if there's any more more time.
I'm actually going to check out and need to go and walk my dog.
All right. Well, enjoy that walk. Enjoy that time outside. Thank you for chiming in. Thank you for sharing your perspective and sharing so honestly and vulnerably. I love you, brother.
Everybody in this chat, everybody in the Freak Sense, all of us, we're all family, 24 hours. And the best thing with this movement is we live here, we know what's going on the ground, and the people are starting to turn here big time.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I'll just leave it at that bit and let you crack on, okay?
All right. Thanks, brother. Take care. And if there's no one else on Telegram who wants to chime in, I'm always open to take questions. Oh, hey. Hey, Dana.
Hey, it's Julia.
Oh, hey, Julia. Hey, Julia. Good to talk to you.
Hey there. I know. Fancy meeting you here.
I know. Yeah, it's been a minute. How are you doing?
I just wanted to chime in and let you know and everybody know that a couple of months ago, I posted on Facebook in my local community an announcement to bring together patriot, God-loving families and organize outdoor activities in nature and to come together for learning truth on any subject and for our kids to play together. And there was quite an interest, and we all made wonderful friends, honestly better ones than we ever had in the past. Everyone is very open-minded and willing to listen. It just made my life so full of joy to find all these wonderful people who were living in fear but now they feel completely free to pursue their passions and change their lives to be the way they want it to be. And they are bringing in more and more people, including ex-Biden voters, but they were completely misguided. And now we are looking for a permanent place to hold meetings and activities and talk about plans going forward. So I would like to encourage everyone who feels alone or surrounded by wolves to initiate this on their own, because they will be so surprised on the turns their life will take.
Yeah,
That's all I had to say.
that's
Justin.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And it is important for us all to take ownership and responsibility of not sitting around waiting for everything. You know, there is a larger plan. This is God's plan that we are seeing play out. But part of God's plan is to inspire you. It's to inspire you to take action, and to go forth and share the truth in the way that you know how. So I think that's an absolutely beautiful way to do that, to build those connections in your local community and really create this create this world that we want to shift to, create this new earth that we're trying to manifest. Because the more effort and the more action that we put into it, the faster that we can get there. If we sit around and just wait for it to happen, well, it's not going to happen very quickly. I'll tell you that much. So thank you for sharing those words of inspiration and sharing those good ideas. So if can anyone reach out to you if they have any questions about how you did that?
Yes, I'm on the JC Family Telegram group, so they can find me there, Julia.
Beautiful. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah, the
wonderful.
lady with the bunny picture. Yes, and thank you so much for everything, Justin, and to Charlie too. And I'm sharing Charlie's to everybody. This is the thing. We are free on paper. We just need to take charge and do what the hell we want to do. There is like literally no obstacle in front of us of what we want to do.
Yes.
And some people say, I want to keep my job, but they are asking for the vaccine. You can upload the Constitution. If they don't like it, you can upload any vaccination card. There is no central database where they can check on you. I mean, you can just do anything you want. Just go work for wherever you want, do any activities you want. There is literally nobody trying to stop us in anything we do. And this is the ultimate proof that we are free, not just on paper, but on paper for sure we are free.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
just have to take charge and just do what we want. And with the families, I can give a little advice. What I usually do with families and friends, and what Stuart was asking, I just use the NLP thing, which is I ask questions. So whatever my dad would say, I would say, how do you know that? Well, how do you know that? How do you know that? And eventually they run out of answers and they realize they don't know anything. And this has been working for me, especially when talking to these ex-Biden voters, just asking questions instead of telling them truth. So maybe just a tip for people, and it's very difficult to undo them. So just be patient.
Yes, that is fantastic advice, and so important to remember to use that Socratic method and just stay in that space of asking. And that's where as we've talked about, Jesus was always asking the questions as king. So as long as you stay in that space, it it doesn't allow conflict. It doesn't allow confrontation to come about, because as long as you're asking questions, you stay in that space of you're probing into to their perspective in a non-confrontational way, and just getting really them, you're operating as a beautiful mirror for them to really re-examine everything that they know, without coming at them with an overwhelming bit of information. They come to the conclusions themselves. So thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic.
Yes, you're welcome. And we just have to stay loving, because if we get angry, they'll say, look, it's not even working for you. Why are you telling me this?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. Love
Thank you,
you. Take
Julia.
care.
Love you too. Yeah, just embodying that, being that light, shining. shining brightly, not being consumed with trying to, we've used the analogy before. If we are the lighthouse doesn't move. It doesn't go over and try and shine the light out on the ship somewhere else. It stays firmly and it just stays bright. So just stand firmly in the truth, be bright, and those who are drawn to you will naturally come to you. And as we start to see things unfold, people are going to naturally come to us and start asking a lot of questions. So we don't have to come to anyone else. You don't have to go anywhere. So just remember that. All right. Anyone else have any input or questions or things we want to get into? Hope the noise in the background isn't too much. Eugene is furious right now. He just got a dehydrator recently, so he's been having fun with that. All raw things, but dehydrating makes it adds a little bit of flair to it.
I got something if
I would love to listen.
awesome. Yeah, and I switched over from YouTube since it was choppy, but yeah, this is yeah. So one thing that comes to mind to me for everything that I guess the one thing that I keep thinking about is essentially surrendering. So, surrendering the left side and casting your net to the right. I think that that really resonates. And as not think about anything so much, you just accept everything that is. And I attribute it to faith. So have faith. Know that these things um, are are everything is always going to be working out for you. And as long as you stay in the moment, cast your net to the right, you'll be able to move through the day to day and not give an inch to the left brain. So that's kind of one of the things that keeps recurring throughout my mind.
Yeah, beautifully said. It, that is surrender by definition. It's not don't confuse surrendering with complacency though, and because it does still require action, but it's not trying to consume. What if I do that, and how will I do this? And it's surrendering to God, surrendering to that divine leadership, so that we are always just led perfectly. God's always calling us. God's always leading us every single moment. We just have gotten so fixated on this egoic left brain where we're always trying to analyze and think about things and speculate and all these other sorts of stuff. Like when we get into these spirals, which there's a space of contemplation and there's a healthy level of contemplation and there is a time and space for it. There's the Sherlock Holmes frontal lobe, as Charlie talks about, which is important to utilize in order to maximize the 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 ways that God leads us, so that we can take the current situation in order to fit our egoic desires, or operate from a place of fear.
What do you call it? Having said that, I do have something of where I'm trying to integrate um, these two ideas, and I'm not quite sure how they come together. Um, uh, I'm I'm in Calgary here in Canada, and for I guess one thing that's shown up for Canada is somebody called Ramona Didula, and uh, you know, uh, for the most part, um, it, it the ideas that she gives and portrays, all where they talk about things that are a little bit different. Uh, I I know she's talked about med beds, and she says that she's the Queen of Canada. Those few things, but she also talks about things like I believe it's like the Palladians and whatnot. So those are the things that I'm not really able to kind of put together, given that this it's what you and Charlie have been sharing with the flat Earth and firmament, and uh, just trying to integrate that other aspect. I don't even need to, but yeah, I'm not exactly sure on how to go forward with that
Sh-
thought there.
Sure. Yeah. So a few people have asked me about her, and I have not done any research myself, so I don't have a lot to work with. But my initial gut feeling just brings me back to the whole fake King of England that came out, whatever his name was, which that turned out to be a huge scam. Um, he conned a lot of people into giving him money, into getting behind this cause, uh, and it was all fake. It was all fake, you know. So I I don't know. I don't know who this is, but at the same time, we don't need any kings or queens. There's no such thing as authority over another sovereign being. We are all sovereigns. We are all children of God. So as soon as someone starts to claim authority or that they have this leverage to stand over another, it's bullshit. It is absolute bullshit, and it goes against everything within God's laws. So that's kind of my general take on that. And then as far as addressing things like discussing Palladians and all of that, like there's when we talk about there's no such thing as aliens. There's no aliens that are coming here to save us or to harm us. There's no physical reptilians that are, um, you know, uh, doing all that kind of stuff or whatever the stories that people like to say. But God's part of is infinite. And so there are levels of consciousness that we are all connected to. It's all us that you could classify as Palladians or whatever, like whatever the term you want to call them. And it's not that it's wrong to do so, but as soon as you get into this idea that this consciousness is outside of me, that's where you can be steered wrongly. It's going within, and then you can connect to all levels of consciousness. Um, so people who tap into these levels of consciousness and speak to these beings from other places, they're not going anywhere else. They're going within, and this is allowing them to tap into this. And there's no physical spaceships that are going to fly through and take up anyone or kill anyone or do any of that kind of stuff. That's all bullshit. But I have no idea what exists once we experience this firmament experience, this dome. Once we've graduated past it, it has to be infinite because God's consciousness is infinite. So it does continue, just not in any sort of conventional organized society alien sort of way where space is full of, balls floating at impossible speeds and gravity and all that bullshit. But there's no limit. There's no limit to the infinite consciousness. So that's where it gets kind of tricky, and you have to really use discernment on what someone's saying. Are they pushing this alien agenda that was completely contrived by the powers that be at the time with the Roswell incident to push an idea that we are a victim of these higher beings that could come in and take us at any moment, or they have to come and save us like that. That's just another manipulation and another lie. But there still is some truth to tapping into higher levels of consciousness, which is all that there is. We are just in one of the seven bands of consciousness, the seven chakras, the seven levels of consciousness. So it works in that sort of way too. So I hope that need any clarifying questions, please let me know.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah, thank you for that explanation, brother. That really, I'm sure that really, you know, put some clarification on a lot of these things. One thing that comes to mind now that you've mentioned it is uh, the whole, I guess, the whole thing about the Bifrost and the Norse gods, how the it how it kind of explains how so that type of thing. Does that all tie into uh, how you and Charlie have explained it in the Bible, and does it all relate? I know it. There's also kind of relationship there. So uh, I'm just trying to put a clear picture behind how all of this kind of fits together.
Yeah, so the Bible and what Jesus taught and this one story that's playing out is the story that we are on currently. And we have to complete this story. We have to complete this journey in order to graduate. And what lies beyond that, I don't know. And it's really not important to look at right now because as soon as we start getting off into those that sort of realm, then we're missing out on what we're here to do, and so we're just prolonging this journey of completion right now. So that's why the firmament exists, to protect this experience until we complete it, and after that point, yeah, the firmament and move beyond. And like I said, I have no idea what that's like, but we just have to be careful to avoid the distractions. Usually, distractions are intentionally placed there to steer us away from this story that we're supposed to embody and complete. So that's all that Jesus taught, was how to complete it was the handbook to how to complete the story, how to do this process and to graduate. Um, so yeah, and as we graduate, we grow naturally lighter, and we move upwards within the bands of within the chakras, within the colors. And so who knows what the next story will be? Who knows what the next process?
It's long and narrow, and yeah, don't veer off of it.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for answering my questions.
You're welcome, Richard. Thanks for being here, brother.
All right, see ya.
Take care.
Hey, Justin. Hey, Richard. I'd love to just add just a little bit to that.
Please.
So, talking about the flat Earth and the ice wall and the firmament, I know Santos has touched after the ice wall. It's extra territory, and that's sort of where extraterrestrials came from. So, of course, it is a true thing, but it's us. And of course, they've altered it. So, the extra territory that they've kept from us, they've switched it and made us scared of extraterrestrials.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. And yes, so much has been lied to us and kept away from us. That's why no one's really allowed to go to Antarctica except for these very curated tours, because they don't want anyone to question or look into the fact that the, this is an infinite plane. And so, of course, there exists infinite plane out there. But the center, at least my understanding is the center is where life emanates. And so the further and further you get away from the center, the have available. And so it becomes more and more difficult. And so therefore you have to rely more and more on technologies, and that's where you have to start slipping into the left-hand path to another. But the idea is to complete this process, complete this journey on the life path, which the life path is. But yeah, well said. Thank you for bringing that up. It's it's fascinating to consider and to look into. And Santos does do a really good job at explaining a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yes, beautiful. Yeah, it's just so exciting what's coming. So thank you for just giving us an opportunity, and love to all here.
Yeah, I love you too, sister. Thank you.
Love you, Justin.
All right. Anyone else want to chime in? Got a few questions from the chat I can get into. If not, so Angel Q says, "Do you know anything about Tartaria?" And so again, Santos does a great job at explaining this. But from my understanding, Tartaria is the last, was the previous empire that had technology, which was all about free energy and wealth and abundance for all, and no hierarchy or authority or control. And this is where all of these ancient structures, these castles and even structures within this country that have been around for maybe even 100 years ago, there were still remnants of them. And the cabal's aim was to systematically wipe them out, to remove them. That's where you saw the things like the Bolshevik Revolution and the World Wars. A big aim of that was to destroy a lot of these relics in this history, to continue to obfuscate the truth of our true history and where we come from, and the fact that we are actually in a very primitive time technologically, and we're relying on these gatekeepers to allow us to have power, access to power, which is just absolutely ludicrous. And so they don't want any sort of those hints to come out, because as soon as we start to question this, we're like, well, hey, why are we paying for this electricity when energy is abundant and it's all around us all the time? So that's Tartaria is and I believe the empire was in the Russian area, but there were also remnants in the Americas as well. It was a fairly widespread empire. I think most of the earth was Tartarian at one point, at least most of the northern hemisphere, which I guess wouldn't be a hemisphere. What would we even call it if it's not a hemisphere? The northern, the central aspect. But yeah, so that's Tartaria, and so we're gonna uncover all of that history. And I saw in the chat the mud floods were mentioned, so there was likely some form of directed energy weaponry, weather manipulation used to create a lot of these goodly, godly people, which is just us, these children of Abel who were living righteously, taken over by these parasites, these Canaanites who aimed and figured out a way to lie to the entire earth and steer the history, and they systematically turned us away from this truth, and it just took a couple of generations, because like I said, it's really not that long ago, 100, 150 years ago, that these guys were around. You can still find pictures and remnants of these technologies that were about, and they had wireless free energy. So that's where we're going to get back to.
Oh, that's great. I just, while you were talking about all that, I put it into the gematria, and it comes up as 88. Interesting.
Nice.
And some of the words would be Moscow, Trump,
Yep.
bloodline, God's plan, Emmanuel, California.
Oh, we lost you for a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just wanted to add a few gematria numbers for you.
Yeah, so I heard California. Is that you were about to say something?
Oh, yeah. California was in there. And I mean, of course, like the list goes on and on, but that was really
the ones that stood out. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that stood out.
Nice. yeah, it's into negative 48 and how he does that on a regular basis. It is just inspiring so many, including myself, to just be looking up the gematria of so many different things to see what's really being said, because it's God's language. It's a language, but it's the actual one that's represented within nature. And throw that little caveat out there that that might be why negative 48 hasn't gone more into it, because we're going to figure out that that's all not true as well.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. And that does ring a bell. I did hear something like that too. So I'll research and get back to everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Dana. Cool. Yeah, if anyone else wants to chime in, feel free. Otherwise, I'll just keep reading off questions from the chat. So Christoph A just said, Justin, can you tell us anything from the negative 48 show that we may not have picked up on ourselves? I'm getting some questions about that show, though, concerning some of the things that were addressed or not addressed, and specifically concerning the level Earth and the truth about Hitler. Those are the two big ones that, and big topics to get into. And so people have asked, why weren't we more contrarian when those kinds of things were brought up? But the thing is, we have to remember that these guys are like, there's no doubt in my mind that negative 48 and likely that those he works with are all connected, very connected in some way or another. And just listening in the ways that he talks, there's a specific order that things have to be disseminated. There's a specific order that the public has to receive things so that it's not overbearing and too shocking all at once. So you'll notice how and people have asked, well, why is he doing shows with people like Charlie Ward and Simon Parks and all these other kind of characters? And it's like the same. It's like how Jesus taught. You can't expect to spread the good word if you're just going to those who are going to receive you well. You have to go to the spaces where, which in this case would be in the truth community, where the lies are being spread. And so you'll notice how on every show that he negative 48 gets on, and even in our show, like he kind of takes over. And this is to sort of go in the direction that it needs to happen, that's being orchestrated from behind the scenes for the best benefit of everyone. So with those topics like the level Earth and the truth about Hitler, it's not the time from their perspective to get into that. Now we are a unique bunch. The freaksters and those of us who are so engaged in this level of truth are all in for the truth 100%. So we've already done the work to prepare ourselves to get ready for that. And Charlie's not going to beat around the bush on any other way to let that out, and I'm not either. But when we've got someone like that on, especially when we have no doubt that they're connected in some way or another, you just kind of have to be respectful of the direction that they take it. And we weren't going to sit there and be contrarian and create difficulty within that, because it's not the time or the place. And I have no doubt that the full truth will be revealed from their perspective when the time is right. And you'll even notice, because they talked about like space and planets, and then Sabrina Gal talked about Hitler and the Nazis and whatever else. But you'll notice towards the end of the show, Sabrina Gal, as her father, is going to have to throw away all of his World War II history books because they're all wrong. So she was kind of hinting and acknowledging, and she even talked about how we need to do another show that gets more into the weeds of that, like not really wanting to get into it at that point, but that she knew the truth. It wasn't that she was hiding it or steering anyone wrong at all. And he very much agreed with the idea that gravity is false. It was a falsely pushed idea by Einstein. So they know, they get it. It's just not So just wanted to say that for everyone who was kind of wondering why we didn't get into an argument or get into that more. We have to be respectful of where they're coming from and what they're doing, because they are bridging the gap for the truth community who has been kind of steered into a bunch of lies, to help get them back onto the space. Our role is to play that completely truthful side of the spectrum, regardless of who it upsets or offends. And we will continue to play that role. Any sort of guidance from any internal team, it's just letting the truth guide us. So I can appreciate why there has to be a little bit meticulous way of going about this, why the plan has to be executed in a certain direction, a certain order. Things have to be divulged in the right order, and that's the same with anything. You think just a couple years ago, like we had no idea any of this stuff, or a lot of us had no idea any of this stuff was going on. So it's been a process for all of us to kind of step by step get into that space of truth. So that would be, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that on the Q&A tomorrow, just because I have been so we'll talk more about that, but just wanted to say that for anyone who was curious as well. Alkaline state, we grow much larger. The earth, the beings, the trees, animals, like everything naturally grew larger, and so ever since then, the fall of man, we've started to fall, we've started to shrink and grow smaller and smaller and smaller, but soon enough we will rise once again.
Area and all that old technology has to do with our understanding of the ether. So when that starts to come back to us, I think all of that will be able to kind of go back and, like you said, Justin, become the giants that we want.
Exactly. Exactly. Well said. Let's see. Just looking for any other questions. Again, anyone feel free to chime in. We can take this any direction that we feel called to. It looks like people are having trouble with the stream. Man, I wish the internet was better here. I might have to just not do these except for when I go over to Charlie and Colleen's, because they have much better. Yeah, I don't see any other questions in the chat. Anyone else got anything here? Otherwise, I can end this. If no one else feels called to share.
I'll just thank you right now for everybody. Thanks for doing this and making us a group here, because sometimes we can all feel a little bit isolated, but you really bring us together and fill us up with so much hope and faith, and we can recharge our battery here in these group calls and videos that you do. So really, Justin, thank you so much for everything you do, and love to all.
Oh, thank you, Dana. That means so much to hear, and it's so true. Like, the more that we can create these spaces of connections for those of us who are on the righteous path, we can recharge. And I love that word, recharge. And so we bring our lights together. We form this super bright light, and it just is infectious, and it grows exponentially. It's just this it's this one. So thank you for acknowledging that, and thank you for being here and sharing your light with us as well, because it is extremely bright. So thank you, sister.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Ken asked, does Colleen have a teaching channel? Nope. Nope. Her stuff is all. um, it's amazing that Charlie has enough time to do anything extra. But Colleen is always taking care of the animals or running around doing stuff. She is just a giver, selflessly giving all the time. Ron asked Justin, did you look into Eternal Flame? No, I have not. Jennifer asked, I missed if anything was said about the Arizona audit. Do you think it will set the dominoes falling? Something has to. That seems like a likely one to. Um, I don't know how, and I don't know exactly. And it's going to be like Q said, it's going to be drip, 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 then flood. So as soon as it starts, it's going to be all at once. But yeah, I don't know exactly what is going to be the first little. They're supposed to be posted at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Friday and tomorrow. So that's 3 p.m. for me. Um, so we shall see. Danielle says, apparently people within the church don't think we are children of God until we leave the so we're all children of God, but some of us just choose to forget that. Um, so we're all children of God until we leave the carnal world. So yeah, I mean, if we don't leave the carnal world, then we'll just continue suffering and dying. But we're still children of God. We're just children of God who are choosing to pretend like we're separate from God, and we choose to experience suffering and death, um, which is an experience in and of itself. So it's not necessarily wrong, but it's not something. So I am choosing life. But we are all children of God. There's no ability to take that away or to remove that. You cannot sever your connection with God. It is absolutely impossible, and that's what the cabal hates, because they want to figure out a way to completely sever the connection with God entirely and themselves. But it's still there. It's still there. You can't get away from it. JB asked Justin, have you risen your chrism oil? And if so, what does it feel like? So I have not had any uh, monumental experience where I'm like, oh, that's it. This is happening. I do experience moments of clarity, and sometimes I'll say things where I'm like, well, where did that come from? And or stuff will happen. Nothing like it's described. I've heard people describe that process and says it is a um, pretty noticeable sensation, warm energy rising up the spine, and sort of a euphoric state, and it's like um, if it's like you're on psychedelics or something, it creates this. Yeah, Jennifer, nice. Justin, when you talked with Tony about water, you said you don't really drink water. Me either, but I'd like to know how much juice you drink daily. Um, It depends. I don't have any juice. Some days I just eat fruit. I'm kind of leaning more towards the inclination that eating the fibers and stuff within the fruit, the whole fruit, is going to help slow down that water to be absorbed in our bodies even better. Um, and I found even on days where I don't have any juice and I just eat fruit, I still don't feel thirsty or dehydrated or any of that. My urine still looks good. So some days I don't have any juice. Some days I'll have like 2 or 3 liters. Just depends on how I'm feeling. But recently it's been more um, eating the whole fruits. And if I just switch to like watermelon or juicier fruits like that. Yes, Danielle says, Ghost Ezra and his friends called me saying we are children of God. Can you believe that? Hmm. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know why. It's probably just confused that way, but like we are part of the one eternal consciousness. So we are God incarnate in essence. We are that aspect. But as soon as I start to let my ego take charge and say, "Oh, well, I'm God, so therefore I can do whatever I want," like that's where it's quickly gets to Satanism, because then you start to get into moral relativism and that you can do what you want and you can steer everything, um, which is not the case at all. So we are an infinite fragment of the one infinite consciousness. Um, but it's so that might be where they're coming from, because the New Age community has been steered into this satanic idea that they can be have moral relativism and do whatever they want because they are God and that sort of thing. So it's just that you just have to be careful, where that sort of thought process there, it's coming from a higher space or from an egoic space, and that's likely things get lost in translation over text, so that's likely where they were coming from. Um, but I wouldn't really go picking fights or trying to argue with people anywhere online, or especially. Robin says, "Do you think EBS will happen tomorrow?" I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't like really getting fixated on this expectation that things have to happen. Tomorrow does feel like a big possibility, but um, I'm gonna go about my day the same as if it were any other day. And when it happens, exciting watching things develop. I enjoy watching it, but as soon as we start to have these expectations that things have to happen a certain way, then that's where it really gets tricky and can get us into a funk. So just be wary of that. Stan Wingfield says, when fasting, does one drink water? Depends on what type of fasting you want to do. There's water fasting and then there's dry fasting. So water fasting is consuming only pure water, and then dry fasting is consuming nothing at all. Um, I I usually prefer the dry fasting myself, but water fasting can be great too. Um, I wouldn't advise doing any extended fasting until your body is in a clean state. So unless you've been eating fruit for a good period of time, where you're all raw and away from cooked foods and animal carcasses and excretions and um, all that processed foods and all that junk. If you're still eating any of that, I would not recommend an extended fast. Intermittent fasting would be fine to do. But like, why are you still eating that shit if you are? Um, but once you can start experimenting with more extended fasting, and yeah. Yeah, Ken says, when I fasted, I drank both juice and water. So it's not really fasting when you drink juice. It's giving yourself a digestive reset for sure. You're letting your digestive system rest to when it's on. The body has no external fuel from the physical foods, so it starts to train itself into going into autophagy, which means it's burning off and sort of healing at a much faster and deeper level than if you were consuming those things, because it has more energy and intention to devote on other things. Stan says freezing is happening every minute or two. Sorry, guys. It looks like it's still coming through okay, though. All right. Well, just because of connection and whatever else, I'm gonna go ahead and end this one. And just wanted to let y'all know I did put the well, I guess, does anyone have anything else that's on Telegram that wants to chime in before I do end? I did put the the negative 48 chat onto my channel. That's gonna premiere at 3 p.m. so in 35 minutes. So if anyone wants to rewatch that or hasn't seen that, you're more than welcome to. And I always like doing the premiere just because it's kind of fun to have the chat going and people can talk and discuss things. And so I always do that too. So that'll drop on my channel here in about 30 minutes. I did put it on Charlie's Rumble channel as well, just so it's there. That's a fantastic, fantastic video if you haven't watched it already. And then tomorrow we're gonna have our Q&A at 7 p.m. Central, which is always a great time. So we'll do that, and then I think we're gonna do another fireside chat on Sunday. So that should be good, and I believe we're gonna do it on food for thought. So we're gonna be discussing health and diet and how it correlates with taking no thought and all this good stuff. So yeah, with that, I will just say that I love you all dearly. Thank you for being here. The next one